pricing a hike, and that puts fundamental pressure on any Asian FX. And it's very telling to see that the Japanese authorities haven't really done anything on the yen ahead of the US CPI. They just do not want to fight the fundamental tape, especially when the narrative on the Japanese side is that we're probably around 2 hikes behind on the BOJ. So they don't want to waste ammo in quite that way. We're seeing the similar situation in Korea, where the authorities have tampered down on won speculation, but haven't intervened in the market directly. Indonesia came.
What up, y'all? It's the KW Podcast. KW speaking here. I'm going to dive right in real quick, catch this as good information. All right, y'all. For those of y'all who are new here, my name is Kristopher. This is the KW Podcast. Christopher Whitney, or KW speaking. I do a lot of short videos and random stuff, but my main bread and butter is my firm, Whitney Financial Strategies, for our clients, prospective clients, or anyone just interested in keeping up to date with financial information or seeing the due diligence that goes into the recommendations that we make here at Whitney Financial Strategies. And also, it's a tool for me. I go back and watch these videos sometimes, like several times, and I really analyze what the Bloomberg intelligence team, the information they're providing, and really break down the interviews from these managers with billions and billions under management. And so they have teams of analysts behind them. And so a lot of times clients say, well, they're just giving that information for free, and I'm like, oh yeah, if you can understand it. That's why people need advisors. Some people understand it, but they still want to know for sure they're making the right choices. And even the best professional athletes have a coach. Like Wembley with the Spurs. Pops had to come down and talk to him, and he's a young player. Tiger Woods has a coach. We're not going to talk about Tiger Woods, but we're talking about his professional career, not his personal life. But bottom line here is, even if you understand this stuff, it's always great. Even I subscribe to other professionals, myself, and so that's one thing is we're always a student of the game. We ground ourselves in reality. We never take things for granted, and that's how we avoid the pitfalls of investing. And sometimes that might be avoiding a confirmation bias. We need hard data. We need fundamentals information. Sometimes we are avoiding risk, FOMO, risk of missing out. Sometimes can be a feedback loop in the media, and but yeah, it can draw people in, and sometimes that's what they do. So they can they know when everyone's on one side of the boat, and they sometimes induce a short squeeze. But I don't want to get too far off here. Let's hop back to Bloomberg Intelligence and see what's going on today ahead of the trading day. And then I'll have some recommendations at the end of this video. Please stick around. You don't want to miss this one because things are at a tipping point with the Middle East, and the Fed, might have to hike rates after the oil has just pushed the inflation up. So we'll get to that. So what we got here is Australia. There's this gentleman here. Australian consumers deeply pessimistic. Investment banking activity drives Morgan Stanley Australia growth. Okay, great, but who is this guy? He looks familiar. Richard Wagner, Morgan Stanley Australia CEO. Okay, so he's the CEO of the Morgan Stanley's branch there. So he owns he's probably chairman of that board. Let's hear him. Okay, y'all. Just sum this up real quick. We just saw the interview here with Richard Wagner, Morgan Stanley's Australian CEO, saying that data centers in the U.S. heavily financed as of late. He mentioned a half dozen players within the data center AI industry uh, with major capex, capital expenditures, where they're investing in infrastructure in the near future, um, all to the tune of about 850 billion infrastructure for the workplace. That is remarkable considering the S&P 500's up 30% year to date, and it that is also remarkable considering that oil has been on a tear and inflation has been on the rise as a result. And that's why we have bond traders bracing, I should say, well, technically they're positioning, for a Fed hike. Um, so we'll see tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be the day. To, we'll find out the FOMC. Um, and so, yeah, saying the RBA's at the crossroads. RBA's the Australian Central Bank, and they're RBA at a crossroads, and what plays out over the next 6 months should set the tone for 2027, as he said. All right, let's hop on back here. SpaceX got oversubscribed with their independent public offering. That's a great sign for the economy. Elon Musk, go for it. Oversubscribed. Hey, look at this. That's great information. Look at, wow. Wow. Secondary market. It's called the secondary market, y'all. The, the first market's the IPO. 70% went to institutional investors. Oh man, more. Okay, they just announced right now, because this is when it would happen too, around this time, that there's more bombings in the Middle East. Oh my god, but they cut it out. More bombings in the Middle East. And oil is up again now. Just now. This is breaking news. Hey, I'm breaking news like a journalist. Anyway, I'm already short Australian dollar, Japanese yen, so that should go down with the oil up. This is in the way here. So I drew this out. It could be two scenarios. We can have it drop down to this level here. See if I can get this more centered. I'm going to take it off auto so I can drag the chart up. Oops. Take it off of this too. On the pointer so it knows not to draw. That should work. There we go. Okay, as I was. So if nothing happened right now in the overnight session, then this. If something happens, which I anticipated, then maybe this. If it continues, because Trump jawboned it down yesterday, but that may not be enough to stop them. Israel and Lebanon are just at it again. If that continues, then this is going to go down, son. Move up here. Now, this is a 1 hour chart, so every one of these candlesticks here is 1 hour. Okay. Now I'm going to bump this back. I'm going to put this on 1 day. This is just today, right? Here's 5 days. So we had this drop earlier when the tobacco reignited. It's been in a range, and then another drop yesterday. It resumed after Trump jawboned, but it looks like it's about to take another leg down. Zoom out to 1 month, and we're on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Why are we looking at this currency if you're new here? That's because it has like a 95% correlation to the S&P 500. So if we're looking at 3 months out right here, and we're looking at 3 months on the chart here, which is already at, see the little thing here? It looks just like that. See the little dip here? See that? It's just, this is more zoomed in. Anyways, I believe the program's back up, so let's hop on real here fast to hear what they're saying. She's pretty good. Here's the Japanese yen. Yeah. Whoop whoop. I agree. I agree. I agree with both. That's right. Dang, they were prepared for that. Mm, good question, though. Yeah, since they figured out how. All right. That was a good interview right there. Okay, that was a lot of information, y'all. Like super fast too. I'm gonna break it down summary form. All right, so we got SpaceX IPO way oversubscribed, largest in history, as a matter of fact. About to the tune of quarter trillion, 250 billion. And also, New York Stock Exchange rules now makes it faster for IPOs to get to the secondary market. So we're looking at 30% of that 250 billion coming from just index funds alone. And Starlink in India hits a snag. Um, I'm not sure exactly what it's about, but I think it has something to do with security, like sovereignty security of India. Um, with their huge population, that's a material disclosure. Looks like they're going back to the Morgan Stanley summit here, but we got 15 minutes left until the end of the next day, basically. So the market's technically open for the next day. Asian stocks set to fall is what we're looking at as of right now. After more bombing in the Middle East, then the yen weakness continues, but the Bank of Japan unlikely to step in before the next week's meeting. Wells Fargo manager says. Um, and then we got the morning calls. We got Goldman Sachs saying that the market could have a pullback, but it would be sharp but short. It's vulnerable to that. I'm not saying it's going to happen. And then JP Morgan saying that stocks continue to run. I said I agree. Then they reference Anthropic, and they're talking about uh, they want to make it. They want to offer their services to people who have their values align with the type of program. He had a good point, because if you're going to use Anthropic or like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any of them, I think Apple's got Siri. You got Copilot with Microsoft. If you're going to use any of these, they all have kind of a different flavor to them. So you want to kind of, which makes sense. If you're going to hire an advisor, you want your advisor's values to align. You're going to get a better outcome, because they're going to have. It's going to be easier to relate. Doesn't mean they can't still advise you if you're having some conflicting values. If you have a real professional, but they need to disclose that to the client. The client knows that, and then they've been disclosed, and it's fair. All's fair in Midland. That's called upfrontness. To any of my northern clients that's down in the south, that's what we call empathy, being upfront. But not to say that's the wrong way to do it. That just seems to work best down here. Um, now, then the next thing we got going on here is so we got some values aligned, the business model aligned with values, and then Anthropic's CEO says what's coming, and what he's saying really is that basically Anthropic's AI can basically break into any computer now in the entire world. They've I think surpassed all of them, for what it sounds. I could be wrong on that, but that's a fact. So that now all the major guys are forced to add Anthropic. So you see that they showed a chart of all the I'm just checking what he's saying there. Um, we saw the list of all the IPOs coming out. NVIDIA was on the top of that list. They're all having to add Anthropic, not because they want to, but because they have to, basically, or get hacked. So when he said what's coming, he's like, if you don't get on board, yeah, good luck, because they pretty much like dominated that corner of the market. Then let's see, looks like Supermicro, which really blew up in price at the beginning of all this, boom in the AI sector. They're seeking $7 billion in an equity deal for their IPO, and they've already got 39 billion orders, quote unquote. Tencent stock is raising 4.7 billion for AI development as well. All right, let's see what Dennis Richard says. Former Australian ambassador to U.S. This might be a politically motivated one, by the way, because of this ambassador affiliation. So be warned, Bloomberg can be slightly biased on the political side. So let's talking about Trump, but let's hear what he has to say. Okay, we need to hear the Democrat side too, because of the professional Democrats, when it comes to markets, will actually acknowledge stuff that the mainstream won't. They keep it real for the most part. They don't want to lose their credibility, but sometimes they gloss things. But that's how they show empathy. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up here. Let's hear it out. Yeah, no kidding. Uh, I agree. He was rather diplomatic, but that's what he does. Yeah, do it. Simply saying, okay, folks, we got 5 minutes left until the end of this day of Tuesday, July the 9th, 2026. So in our world, it's about to be July the 10th. Mr. Richardson of Morgan Stanley was pretty diplomatic, and which was his wasn't with Morgan Stanley. No, I believe he was, but he was a former ambassador to the U.S. from Australia, and so of course he's going to be diplomatic because that was his former job. Uh, but he was saying that Taiwan, which normally would be a sticking point between the U.S. and China in terms of trade deal negotiating, it's kind of, I think, that's shelved on both sides as an object. So it's not being modeled into the risk modeling metrics. And I agree. That's Taiwan Semiconductor Company with the AI boom has really grown in size and strength. So that adds to the equation. Okay, let's hop back here. This will be good. Wow. Uh oh. All right, we got 2 minutes, y'all. Okay, so basically, we got China is planning to build out an AI infrastructure investment of $295 billion, which is more than a quarter trillion. That's pretty significant. Taiwan tightening controls chips to China, and they criminalized they criminalized smuggling of these chips, which is a first time matter, which is continuity to what Richardson and Morgan Stanley, former ambassador from Australia to the U.S., said about Taiwan unlikely to react, Beijing unlikely to react to Taiwan um, criminalizing smuggling of activity for now. So that was good information to know. I agree. That's not a priority. We got bigger fish to fry globally. Looks like is chaos is erupting in Havana, but they are exporting 250 million barrels of oil. Fires literally in the streets, as you saw. Asia set the fall after another hangover and renewed bombing after Trump was able to jawbone the market back up, and that kind of fell through again after those rockets were fired. So I hope they get that squared away. But they might be doing that on purpose because they got people betting. Like it's almost like insider trading, but that's called market manipulation, and it does happen all the time in the markets. But sometimes it's hard to prove when you got it when it's being done by like terrorists, basically, or people who have un, unfair intentions. Let's just say that. to be fair, because that could be alleged, and I'm a professional who asserts objectivity in my practice, and so we'll leave it at that. If you want to see more of my opinion, just watch some of my shorter videos. Who get plenty of that? But this program is strictly professional. Um, so anyhow, that wraps it up. I encourage you to go through it um, and find the morning calls where they posted up, and there was a morning call from Goldman Sachs and one from JP Morgan, and write it down and just really pick it apart, read through it, use AI if you need to understand it, because their short sentences are like Everclear of information. They're so simple, but their simplicity is actually a super organized statement. And each basically word really says a lot. So you got to go back and analyze it. Even for someone with 20 years experience, I have to go back and really read through it, uh, because it's easy to miss something. The nuance is high. Let's put it this way. Okay, here, the last 2 minutes is up. Let's see what I say. FAFO. Nice. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yeah, 30%. Fair enough. Be right back. Getting some water. I'm still here with y'all. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's wrap this up here. Okay. Here's basically where we're at. We got the U.S. Oops, forgot to turn it back on. Okay, guys, let's wrap this up here. All right, so basically, we got the U.S. strikes in Iran, um, say retaliation for a downed helicopter. So it's just a tit for tat. It's not like a major escalation. Um, that might help the market rebound here. Looks like Asian stocks to continue a sell off from yesterday today, which is yesterday in market time. Uh, see here. U.S. rebalancing into AI puts uh, Asian AI stocks on watch. Looks like the Treasury market is already pricing in the U.S. hike, but the lady we just listened to, Jasmine from RBC Wealth Management, senior Asian investment strategist, stated that she doesn't see a hike until 2027, until next year. And she's someone who would know that. Underweight Asian equities, and she's overweight U.S. equities as a result. So she sees the U.S. Stock market continuing, and it's already at 3% year to date, in spite of the war in oil. Korean market's still attractive, she also said. All right, y'all. I encourage y'all to leave your questions in the comments. Our ad, and I encourage anyone to, no matter how silly or awesome, just put the comment in there. We're not here to judge. We're here to give the best advice, given everyone's circumstances, or the best objective advice in general. So feel free to leave a comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. KW Podcast signing out.